days away on business. He had cancelled all his meetings just to see his 3 sons sooner, picturing a warm reunion inside the brightly lit mansion. But when he stopped in front of 218 Willow Creek Drive, the sight before him left him frozen. The black Audi sped down the deserted stretch of Willow Creek after 10 at night. Rain pounded hard against the windshield, the wipers working furiously but unable to clear the heavy sheets of water. William Carter gripped the steering wheel tight, his mind fixed only on the moment he could hold his boys again after 3 long months apart. As the car turned into the gate at 218, the headlights swept across a pitch-dark yard. The living room glowed with light, but no one came to the door. William slowed down, frowning. Usually, the children would come running the instant they heard his car. The screech of brakes cut through the rain, tires skidding on the wet pavement. Right by the fence, under a tree, 3 small figures sat huddled together. Their clothes were drenched, their hair plastered to their heads, streams of rainwater running down their faces. One clutched a tattered teddy bear, lips turning purple. William leapt from the car. He dropped to his knees before his sons, his voice hoarse as he called out, "Ethan, Daniel, Noah. What are you doing out here? Why are you sitting in the rain like this?" 3 little faces lifted up, rain and tears blurred together. Ethan trembled, too shaken to speak. Daniel bit his lip and lowered his head. Noah gave a small, broken sob, whispering in fragments, "Mum. Mum said, 'This is where we belong.'" The words tore at William's heart. He didn't ask more. The only thing that mattered was getting them safe. He stripped off his coat, wrapped it around each child, lifted Daniel onto his left arm, pulled Noah tight against his chest, and motioned for Ethan to cling to his shoulder. He ran straight to the porch. The front door was locked. William pounded on it, his voice urgent. "Jacob! Open up now!" The door flew open to reveal Jacob Miller, the butler, startled and alarmed. William barked orders without pause. "Get warm towels. Start the fireplace. Make hot milk, hurry." He set the boys down on the living room sofa, rubbing their small hands and arms to bring back warmth. Their breathing was ragged, their little bodies trembling. The click of heels sounded on the stairs. Laura Carter appeared in a long nightgown, her face calm, detached. Her eyes swept from her husband to the children, and she spoke evenly. "When did you get back?" William clenched the damp collar of his coat, his eyes red with fury. "Why were the children out in the rain?" Laura gave a slight shrug. "They were misbehaving. I only punished them for 10 minutes to teach them a lesson. Don't blow things out of proportion." William looked at his sons, tiny hands, icy cold, lips blue. Anger roared inside him, but he held it down. He didn't argue. He focused only on wrapping them in towels, pressing warm cups of milk into their hands. While carrying Daniel closer to the fireplace, William glanced toward the porch window. The outdoor camera, mounted on the lamppost, showed a blinking red light. The recording function had been switched off. A chilling detail, like a warning sign. He drew all 3 boys into his arms, pressing them tightly against his chest. Noah still clutched the soaked teddy bear. Ethan leaned his head on his father's shoulder, and Daniel whispered, "Dad, I'm so cold." William only nodded, holding them closer, pouring all the warmth of his body into theirs. Laura stood still for a moment, then turned and walked upstairs, the bedroom door closing behind her. In the living room, only the sound of rain on the porch, the crackle of the fireplace, and the trembling breaths of the 3 children remained. William rose to his feet and stepped outside to check the gate. Under the beam of the headlights reflecting off the wet ground, a single iron key lay abandoned. He bent down to pick it up, rainwater streaming down his hand. Who had deliberately locked the gate, leaving the children to sit out in the freezing night like this? William stepped back into the living room, the cold, rain-dampened gate key still resting in his hand. He placed it on the wooden table beside the pile of towels, already soaking up the drops of rainwater falling from his children's clothes. The fire in the hearth crackled and flared, casting flickering shadows over the small, trembling figures. The three boys sat huddled together, their eyes still wide with fear, as if they couldn't quite believe they had escaped the chill outside the porch. Jacob carried in another stack of dry towels. William took them, carefully wiping each little hand, rubbing them gently until they warmed again. Ethan fought to hold back his tears, but his eyes were rimmed red. Daniel timidly clutched the edge of the blanket, glancing at his father now and then, before lowering his head again. Noah still clung tightly to his soaked teddy bear, pressing it against his chest as if it were a fragile shield. William spoke softly, his voice low but steady. "What happened tonight? Why were you sitting out in the rain?" All three stayed silent. Ethan pressed his lips together, tracing faint lines across the wooden tabletop with his finger. Daniel bit down hard on his lip, too afraid to lift his head. At last, Noah's small, halting voice broke the silence. Mum said we were too noisy. Didn't listen. So, we had to go outside." William drew in a long breath, holding it in. His eyes flicked toward the gate key on the table, then back to his three children bundled together under the blanket. If this was only meant to be a 10-minute punishment, why was the gate locked? Why had the outdoor cameras been turned off? Those questions he kept to himself. Right now, the only thing that mattered was calming his children. He pulled all three boys closer, his voice slow but firm. "Listen to me. No one has the right to make you sit out in the rain. No one." Three small faces tilted upward, their eyes fixed on every word. Jacob, standing quietly in the corner of the room, gave a slight nod of agreement. A few minutes later, the children had finished their warm milk. Their cheeks were slowly returning to a healthy pink. William lifted Daniel and set him gently into the armchair by the fireplace, tucking a blanket snugly around him. Then, he turned to Jacob. "Bring more pillows and blankets. Tonight they'll sleep here, right by the fire." Jacob nodded and left the room. Ethan hesitated, then pulled a damp, smudged piece of paper from his pocket. His hands trembled as he handed it to his father. On the paper was a rough sketch, an iron gate, slanted lines standing for the rain. Outside the gate were three small figures huddled together, while inside stood a brightly lit house. At the bottom, in clumsy, childish letters, were the words, "Not allowed inside." William held the paper, his heart sinking. He smoothed Ethan's hair without saying a word. The drawing spoke for itself. Just then, the sharp sound of heels tapped against the stairs. The steady echo in the silence made the children flinch. Ethan clutched his father's sleeve tighter. Daniel pulled the blanket up to his chin, and Noah burrowed deeper into his stuffed bear, curling up small. They didn't need to look, they already knew who was coming. William caught the reaction instantly. He placed a hand on his children's shoulders, drawing them closer. That single gesture was enough to say, "I'm here. Don't be afraid." Laura appeared on the staircase. She wore a thin robe, her hair neatly tied back, her face calm. Her voice was light, almost casual. "You're still up?" William didn't turn his head. His eyes stayed on the fire as he answered simply, "They'll sleep here tonight." Laura stepped down a few more stairs, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly. "You came home early." "That's a surprise. I only wanted to teach the children to be obedient. At their age, without discipline, they'll go astray." William turned toward her, his voice low but steady. "Discipline doesn't mean leaving children out in the cold." The air in the room froze. Laura stared at him for a few seconds, then shrugged, turned her back, and walked up the stairs. The sound of the bedroom door closing upstairs left behind a heavy silence. William let out a sigh and tucked the blanket around the children. He made himself a spot on the long sofa right beside them. The fire in the fireplace burned late into the night. Each time one of the boys stirred, he pulled them closer. Ethan finally drifted off. Daniel's breathing turned steady, and Noah still clutched his stuffed bear, his breathing raspy, but calm. Outside, the rain kept pouring down. The porch light glistened across the wet pavement. On the table, the gate key lay still, a silent piece of evidence that something was not right. The next morning, Jacob had breakfast ready. William looked at the table. Only 2 adult portions, as always. He said nothing, just quietly added bread, poured milk, and placed it in front of each child. They ate slowly, their eyes avoiding his. When breakfast ended, William cleared the dishes. In the soft morning light, he caught sight of a large sheet of paper taped to the inside of the refrigerator door. It was covered in writing. At the top, bold letters read, "Reward, punishment schedule." Under the punishment section, one line had been marked several times, "Rain time out." William froze. The rows of dots stabbed into his mind like blades. He folded Ethan's drawing neatly and slipped it into his vest pocket. His eyes hardened with resolve. He knew now last night had only been the tip of the iceberg. William closed the refrigerator door softly. The creak of the hinge echoed through the quiet kitchen, like a silent warning that this was only the beginning. The next morning, William woke up early. He took his sons to school, but after seeing them walk into their classroom, he didn't leave right away as he usually did. Inside his suit pocket, Ethan's drawing was still damp, the pencil strokes blurred by water. The image of the iron gate, the falling rain, and 3 small figures standing outside the porch cut deep into his heart. He needed answers, not just from what he had witnessed. He turned toward the office wing. Miss Lily Adams, the 3rd grade homeroom teacher, looked up as he entered. Her face showed a flicker of surprise before she quickly offered a polite smile. "Mr. Carter, good morning. Did you come to the school for something in particular?" William nodded, forcing his voice to stay even. "I'd like to ask about the 3 boys. Have you noticed anything unusual with them lately?" Lily paused for a moment, her eyes weighing how much she should say. After a few seconds,